Hello once again, good friends. Brian from Apex Detail. Today we are going to start the year-end awards 2019, and we have a lot to cover, so I do want to get right into it. We're going to break it down into a small series just because of all the categories. I'm going to cover most categories in auto detailing, from tools to products, protection, cutting liquids, correction liquids. So today we're going to start with the category of pads, and we have to break that into subcategories. And we're going to start with wool pads. We're going to start out with number one. Wool pads is going to be the Lake Country Lamb's Wool White Pre-Wash Pads. You can get polishing, you can get extra cut, you can also get foam backed, or you can just get the low profile, just the wool, just like this. They're pre-washed, so you get rid of excess lint. You don't have to worry about them. They are very effective, and I use those the most when it comes to cutting. That's removing harsh imperfections on clear coat. So as we get a closer look at the pad, we can see this here pad, the fibers are knitted to a synthetic hook and loop right here with a center hole punched in. And again, you can get these in polishing pads, cutting pads. You can get them coming in different aggression depending on what you're looking to go after. The quality wool on here makes it difficult for the wool to mat down when you have a lot of polish and compound in it. I do clean these out between every pass, so let's get a closer look. We can see the individual wool fibers, very thick, very plush, and reaches all the way out to the end where I flip this over. You can see the synthetic fibers or backing. This is the hook and loop backing plate for the pad. Quality, they go for anywhere from $11.50, $11.95, all the way up to, I've seen them for $14.95. But guys, they do last for a very long time. Best suited for rotary polisher or force drive polisher. Very effective for both cutting and polishing. All right, that'll bring us to the number 2 wool pad on the list, and that's also going to be from Lake Country, and it's going to be a hybrid wool pad. This is the blue wool pad. This is more for heavy imperfections on harder paint. It's very similar to the purple pad. It just sheds a little bit less and cuts a little bit more. This pad here, again, very similar to the foam pad, but it has more foam towards the base of the pad, which makes it denser, makes it a more dense pad, and makes it more aggressive when it comes to cut. Let's get this under the microscope as well. We can see the individual fibers here. This pad, I want to show you. I did not clean this pad, so you can see. Blow it out between every pass. Get rid of the grit on the fibers, and it'll be most effective. Flip it over, and this is the synthetic hook and loop material that the wool fibers are knitted to. Also suited best for the rotary polisher or for any force-driven polisher. It does run a lot cooler than a lot of other pads when it comes to cutting, and you'll be surprised exactly how far this finishes down for a wool pad. And that will bring us to the 3rd wool pad on my list, also from Lake Country, and it is the purple pad. I don't reach for this one quite as much because it's right in the middle of the two. The blue one will do a lot of jobs. The white one won't do. And if I want something in between, I'll grab this. This sheds just slightly more. It's a little bit less dense than the blue pad, but still very effective and a great alternative. As we take a closer look at the purple Lake Country pad, this also cuts and finishes rather well. Will remove 1500 grit sandpaper marks, and it's very thick, very plush, and really doesn't mat down with a lot of compound or polish on it. However, again, you want to clean it out between every pass or two. Let's get it under the microscope here. And we could see the different fibers, blue fibers, white fibers, very thick and plush, foam down near the center, near the base of the pad, where it is knitted to the synthetic hook and loop. Exact same thing as the other pads here as we focus in. And there you go. Once again, best suited for the rotary polisher or a force-driven polisher, and you team this up with the right correction liquid, and you're good to go. Okay, let's jump into the next subcategory, and that will be microfiber pads, and my number one pad. And it should be no secret to anybody that is a regular to the channel, that's going to be the Uro-Fiber 50/50 pad. This particular microfiber pad is made by Buff and Shine. 50% cutting fibers, 50% polishing fibers. Cutting white fibers, black are the polishing fibers. This is very effective and just one of the best overall pads you can pick up. Team that up with 3D1, you can take care of just about anything. It can cut, it can finish surprisingly well, as you've seen in some of the videos, and is my number one pad above all, hands down. All aspects of your correction regimen can be taken care of with this pad. It has a low pile, and again, it has a blend of 50/50 fibers, cutting and polishing. Let's get this under the microscope. And we can see the blend. They have it blended in strands all the way across the pad. Very plush and very effective. This pad here is best teamed up with a dual action polisher, and it really doesn't matter if it's an entry level 8mm throw, 15, 21mm throw, forced rotation. I just will not team this up with a rotary. You can team this up with any type of correction liquid. It all depends what you're going after. Are you going after deep imperfections? Do you just want to bring out a little bit of shine, remove some oxidation? That all will depend. Okay, my number two pad in this subcategory is going to be the Max Shine Cutting Microfiber Pad. This has a little bit longer fibers than my number three pad. It's going to be very similar. This cuts and finishes down extremely well for a cutting microfiber, hence that's why it's my choice. This one here is just a little bit cheaper than the number three microfiber pad that I have on the list. You can pick this up for about a $10 or $11. The 50/50 pad, the Uro-Fiber pad, goes, I found them anywhere from $11.95 up to $13.95, sometimes even more. So this is, yes, again, very effective in cutting and will finish down extremely well, has a great price, it's nice and plush, and gives you a nice smooth ride across the panel while you are cutting. Okay, what you see with this pad is three layers. Basically, you have the microfibers that are knitted to a backing that's connected to foam, and then that's connected to the synthetic hook and loop material towards the back. And what I've found so far is the adhesive has been quality. And that's important to me, as important as the way it cuts and finishes. I don't want to purchase and order and wait for a pad to come in that's going to fail between these layers after just 2 or 3 uses. Well, so far these have been lasting rather well. Let's take a closer look at this pad. And as you can see, very plush, very thick, quality fibers, and it does a great job cutting and finishing. And has the same hook and loop material that they pretty much all have. This pad here, I personally will only attach to a dual action polisher or force driven. Definitely not on a rotary. You could put it on an entry level polisher, 15mm throw, or even a 21mm throw like this. 5-inch pads, 6.5-inch pads, 3-inch pads, 1 2-inch pads, one for every size and shape. And that will bring us to the third pad in this subcategory, and that's going to be the Lake Country HDO. This is the light cutting microfiber. Very similar to the one we just looked at, just the difference in both the pile thickness of the fiber and in price. And as we take a closer look at this pad here, the only difference between this and the last one we looked at will be the length of the pile of microfiber. So let's get it under here. And as we zoom in, again, very similar, very plush, and very effective. By the way, this is a great example. Brand new pad, right out of the pack, but this is why you wash your pads when they're brand new. Contaminants, a little bit of grit, some fiber from another pad that contaminated this pad, but hence you always want to wash your pads, even brand new, right out of the pack. Just like the last pad, this will be used primarily, in my case, on a dual action polisher. Doesn't matter what the size is, and it really doesn't matter what you team it up with, but it's going to be most likely a cutting compound. And just like the wool pads, foam pads, try to clean it out between every pass or 2. Okay, that'll bring us to the third and final subcategory when it comes to pads. That brings us to foam pads. For me, it's mostly going to be buff and shine. And I'm going to break out a foam pad for fine polishing and finishing. I very rarely use a foam pad for cutting. Yes, they are effective when it comes to cutting. I just prefer wool pads and microfiber when it comes to cut. Switch over to foam when it comes to finish. Again, that's going to be the buff and shine pad. First and foremost, it's going to be one of 3, either the black application pad for jeweling, white for polishing, or this one here for just a little bit more aggressive work on harder paints to finish them down. Buff and shine pads, the adhesive quality, I've never had one separate. They mostly fall apart at the corners and they start to dust as the foam breaks down. But for me, that hasn't been until after the 3rd, 4th, sometimes even 5th correction using the pad. So let's take a closer look at the foam. And when you order foam pads, best to look for the perforated pads. Those are open so it lets air circulate, and that will let the surface temperature run a little bit cooler while correcting. Again, a new pad right out of the pack, and you can see the dirt that's left in the pad from shipping. Wash, clean out all your pads before you start to use them. for me, a foam pad I will use on both a dual action polisher and a rotary, but mostly on a dual action polisher to polish and finish. And when it comes to foam pads, guys, definitely almost most important to clean the pad out between every pass or two, because the polish, the compound gets caked in the cells of the foam very easily. It'll run hotter, it'll run less effective because the foam is being matted down. Okay, it's very rare that I do steer away from buff and shine when it comes to foam pads when I'm finishing or polishing. However, on rare occasions, it does happen. And if it does happen, my number 2 pad on that list is going to be foam pads from Jescar. Again, quality. The pads that I pick up are going to be quality. They're going to be pads that last for corrections and will take the beating of me cleaning them between every pass. Hey, it's not easy on the pads when you're using forced air, chemicals, and a brush. But for me, it's most important to keep the surface of these pads clean to be effective and keep the time down on the corrections. Time is money. Okay, as we take a look at this pad here, I grabbed the dirty one so I could show you what it looks like. So you can see the product caked. And this pad really isn't that bad, but you can see it start to get caked up and it will clog the holes. If it's a perforated pad, it will clog up the holes. You won't have, it'll restrict airflow, but most important, it's gonna make the pad less effective while you're correcting, and it's gonna increase your time on the correction, and it could almost double your time if you're running around half of a car without cleaning the pad or switching pads. So either clean it out, or if you want to have 7, 8 pads to do a car, have them ready within arm's reach and switch them out. If you have a little bit of haze left over from the cutting portion of your correction, attach one of these pads to, doesn't matter, this is just an entry level 8mm throw. You know, not the strongest polisher in the world, but very effective. And that'll bring us to the 3rd spot in the subcategory. And if the first 2 aren't available, Max Shine has incredible pads as well. Quality. And in their line, it all starts right here with finishing, jeweling, light polishing. This is light cutting and then heavy cutting. So this would be their cutting scheme when it comes to colors. All right, so let's take a look at a Max Shine pad up close. This one here happens to be very dirty, so you get to see what this looks like up close. A pad is not going to stay effective when it's this caked with product and clear coat. All right, guys, if you're just starting out, very important, a way to stay out of trouble is to find pads, especially foam pads, that are beveled like this. This, if it hits up against a corner or an edge, will keep the backing plate from hitting and making a mark, and maybe even nicking the paint. So if you do order pads, you can get you know, the straight edge pads, you can get the low profile pads, but if you're just starting out, I would recommend a thicker beveled edge. It'll keep you out of trouble. As you can see there, at no time was the backing plate getting close to the corner or the edge of that panel, but the pad itself was up in the corner doing work. Okay guys, that's going to do it for this first little video in this series of the year-end awards top 3, and I think this will help out a lot of people. And I do want to make it a series and take my time going through the products that I do pick and explain them to you. It's going to help you out more than just breezing through, picking up one product and then another and going fast. I do just want to slow down a little bit and show you a little bit of what I'm talking about and why I'm picking them. So this will be a series. However long it takes is however long it's going to take. I'm not going to rush the series for you. So if you're enjoying, let me know down in the comment section. We started this series with some categories that were inserted in our mail call, and this here continues that, and we do have a long way to go. So we do have a head start. We had to jump on things in mail call. We're going to switch over to this series right here and finish it up. So I'll catch you guys in the next video.